Welcome to another episode of Purpose Today. I'm your host, Dr. April Dobson, and I'm very excited to have a special guest today, Dr. Iyanuoluwa Odebode. Dr. Iyanu is an international speaker and the CEO of Wokkah LLC. Dr. Iyanu has been featured on TEDx, and I'm so excited that during our episode today, we're going to talk about leading with purpose, AI strategies to maximize return. You don't want to go anywhere. We'll be right back after these special sponsorship messages. Purpose Today, this episode is brought to you by Purpose Today Global in partnership with the Purpose Professionals community. If you're a professional who has a desire to align your profession with your purpose and also have an opportunity to network with like-minded professionals, join the Purpose Professionals community. It gives you an opportunity to grow your career, launch your business, and have an opportunity to align with your purpose. The Purpose Professionals community has moved from school, and you can find the community link in the chat. If you're a professional who has a desire to shift your career and pivot to align with your purpose, register to attend the Unfulfilled to Unstoppable, Purpose-Driven Career Pivot in 90 Days. For the link, view the chat and register on Eventbrite. Welcome back to Purpose Today. I am so excited to welcome our very special guest, Dr. Iyanuoluwa Odebode. Dr. Iyanu, welcome to Purpose Today.
Thanks, Dr. April. Great to be here. Excited to dive into the conversation today. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Well, we're going to go ahead and jump right in. I know I shared a little bit about you at the beginning, but there may be guests who are watching who would love to hear more about you. So if you don't mind, can you just share more about yourself with our viewers?
Yeah, so my name is Dr. Iyanuoluwa Odebode, and I am the founder and CEO of Wokkah. And what we do is we help organizations refine and redesign their slow, manual, or broken processes. And so the way you want to think about it is as people begin to move from AI overwhelmed to AI enabled, there's a whole lot of confusion as to how to move, what to do while you're moving. And what we do is we come in and we help them understand where they are at in their AI journey so that we can actually deliver solutions that take them from AI confusion to AI clarity.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
Absolutely.
And I'm sure that there may be some guests who are watching who might want to know a little bit more about your family.
Oh, yeah. So married with a beautiful wife, 4 kids, and really my wife does cooking classes and helps bring teams together or companies, organizations together over food. And so that's really exciting that she gets to do that. As you can tell, then I don't lack food. I don't lack what to eat. So that's been a great thing. And then I have 4 kids, all homeschooled, and they're doing amazing.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing.
Absolutely.
So I know that, we've talked a little bit about, ways to lead purposely.
Yes.
And, we've talked about how organizations can position their leaders can position their organizations for success.
Mm-hmm.
So in your opinion, what are maybe some challenges, 1 or 2 challenges that organizational leaders are facing in organizations today?
So two challenges that I have observed over a period of 5 to 6 years. One is the rapid technological change, which is that systems are being developed faster than companies can actually catch up with them. And then 2 is the people bottleneck, right? So you have to people need to learn how to use those systems, because without the people, if you have the systems, and the systems are just necessary, they're just a waste. And so you want to be able to, one, optimize on people, meaning get them trained and get them all ready for what AI could do for their organizations. But at the same time, the companies need to be able to very quickly adapt to rapid changes. And so if you put those two problems together, like you and I were discussing, if you basically go back to vision and mission and purpose, then all of that becomes easier to solve, because essentially you're able to align all of those prior to just trying to adapt to change. When you try to adapt to change, and all you're trying to do is always to catch up to what's next, and everybody
Right.
next, what's next? Like, okay, is this ever gonna stop? So, but if you drive the conversation from a purpose vantage point, then you can better fill those other gaps, because then you allow the purpose to drive every other thing else that is happening.
Absolutely. And, I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that organizational leaders have to look at the mission, they have to look at the vision, and they have to look at the core purpose, for the organization. But in addition to that, I think it's important for organizational leaders to also ensure that when they look at the people aspect, because you talked a little bit about the people, that the people are also aligned with their purpose individually, so that corporately the organization can be more effective. Organizations can't do anything without the people who are in the organization. And so you talked about being able to look at that focus, but what are some practical strategies, when organizational leaders are looking at the mission, they're looking at the vision, they're looking at the purpose for which they exist, they look at the skills that their workforce, has corporately and individually, and then they look at individual purpose. What are some practical strategies that organizational leaders can introduce to mitigate some of those challenges that you just mentioned?
Yeah. So I think first is really understanding your purpose. Sometimes, or your vision or your mission, and it's like your destination, right? Like, so I'm driving a car, and I'm headed towards a specific destination, right? But to get to that destination, I would have to navigate a variety of paths, right? Like, I would have to take a left turn, take a right turn. I might meet traffic on the way. I would have to navigate some bad drivers. So there's a whole lot of things that sort of come into how you get to that specific vision. And so you take the vision, the umbrella vision, and the first step, or the first thing you need to really think about is, where are we trying to go from where we are currently, right? So at this location, at this point, where am I trying to go next? Okay, we're trying to go here. We're trying to do this for our customers. We want to be able to serve them better. We do not want to, for example, cut our staff. We want to increase our staff, right? That's, as AI is becoming a thing, we're seeing people who are basically saying, hey, we don't need 6,000 people to get this job done anymore. And so they're listening to the investors rather than listening to the purpose and the vision that actually started off a majority of these organizations, right? And so if we're driving the conversation from a purpose standpoint, then you're able to find that. So the first thing is really to identify, where are you trying to go? Where are you trying to go? AI-wise, what do you want AI to be able to do for you? Well, we want AI to double our revenue without cutting down our staff, right? And so if that becomes the vision, then basically you then apply tools or resources that actually help you to be able to get there. What that means might be that rather than focusing on trying to cut tasks and reduce what gets done and what doesn't using AI, the first step might be, how do we drive sales so that we can actually equip our people or bring in more people? If you're driving higher sales volume, then maybe we're able to keep people. But also, because the technology is accelerating, AI is just basically, new tools are getting released almost on a daily basis. Then organizations are like, oh man, we don't really even have time to really think about where things are going to go. Right now, we just need to do a hire freeze, and and no, we're not moving. So first is really understanding, where are you trying to go, right? And when you understand where you're trying to go, what people do you need? What data do you need? What technology do you need? What governance mechanism do you need? And what security protocols do you need to be able to get you to that destination?
That's good. So I want to go back to this first one before we talk about the second one, because I know you listed, identifying the needs as the second step.
Yes.
But I want to go back to the first step in terms of identifying the desired organizational outcomes and strategic goals. I think for a lot of organizational leaders, you sometimes have some leaders are, excellent at pulling in internal and external stakeholders and having these conversations. And you have some organizations that have some bottlenecks and you don't have information sharing across the organization. So when organizational leaders are formulating these strategic goals and these desired organizational outcomes, at what point would you suggest that leaders involve, stakeholders? Because it's important to not just come up with this list that no one is willing to work towards in partnership, but just to ensure that that's a smooth process. How do you recommend that leaders approach that?
Yeah, you're asking a very critical question. And to be honest, one of the biggest piece for any organization right now, while they think about how they make this shift, is really change management, right? The change management process needs to really, really be doubled down on. And that starts with maybe having an internal AI champion, someone who internally understands the vision of the organization, understands where the organization is trying to go. That person may not necessarily be the CEO of the organization or the chief operating officer of the organization, but this is someone who has a thorough understanding of where AI is going, what direction it's going, plus some leadership skills and leadership expertise. That person could also work with organizations as well, AI organizations, to be able to make that to be able to have that conversation or to be able to drive those changes. But once you identify the champion of the organization, like you were saying, it can't be something that just goes like, hey, here's what it is that we're going to do. Boom, you guys just let's go ahead and get it done, right? Because you might send it to the second layer of leadership and they're like, hey, we don't even have the individuals who have a skill set to be able to meet this specific need. And so to your point, it really needs to cut across the entire organization.
Absolutely.
And so it's really what's your technical department looking like? What's the implementation team doing? What are your strategists doing? What are your data engineers doing? And how does that play a part in this bigger goal and this bigger vision you're trying to accomplish?
Fantastic. And I want to go to the second one that you talked about, just identifying the needs and the strategic resources, because that's going to be very important. You talked about looking at, the needs for personnel, looking at the data that's needed, all of the technology that's needed. And I think that's really important for organizational leaders to do and have the right approach to doing that. So I want to, in thinking about all those things, I know that Wokkah is an organization that offers different AI solutions. So what are some considerations that organizational leaders should have when they're thinking about the resources, when they're thinking about the people, when they're thinking about data analysis? Are there any AI tools or resources or considerations that they should have to help them to efficiently arrive at all of the needs that will support their desired outcomes?
That's a great question. As a matter of fact, that's what we help companies do too. So the first is really an assessment, right? Assessing your current systems to see where you should be prioritizing on when it comes to AI adoption. I always like to use the analogy of the stand, walk, run system. And the idea is that you have an organization that is standing. They're standing by the wayside. They're looking at all the other organizations do AI, and they're like, hey, we're good. We are scared of where this is going. We don't want to deal with it. And then they keep missing out on opportunities that the organization might be leveraging to actually take them to the next level. One, you have organizations that are in the walk step. They're not quite standing. They're taking little steps. Great. That's actually the best place for an organization to be, because you are able to cautiously move. So, when you see a stone, you're able to not stumble, right? Yeah. And then the run phase is like, hey, you just better pray that there's nothing in front of you, because if you're not running cautiously, you could just veer off the road, and a car comes and just slams the brake and hits you, or does something critical to the organization and company that we're discussing about. And so it's really critical for the organization to first assess where they are currently, assess your systems, assess the people. And I want to stress the people, because in the AI conversation, most of the time the people are missing. And that's the reason why we think more about how robots and things and robotic automation and things of that nature replaces people. But if we included people in the conversation, I think it would be more enabling people to do better. And so really building the people becomes then essential. Then the governance piece of it is, now we have organizations that would basically say, hey, you could use GPT, and everybody's connecting their emails to their GPTs. Everybody's connecting their calendars to their GPT. Well, what you're really doing is you're selling your personal information onto the platform. And so how do you start really thinking about what that governance looks like, so that the organization or the corporation isn't selling their information to another company that can basically use it for something else, or exposing their information to the general public to use, and then it becomes detrimental to their growth. And so it's really critical, and it's really important, one, to do the assessment first. And how do you do the assessment? You either work with an AI company that has done assessment, or basically look into your internal systems, look at your processes, look at your people, look at your data. Those three things, extremely important. Then look at your governance and sort of start figuring out how you match that.
That's good. Thank you so much. I do want to just re-emphasize the importance of the assessment. Sometimes organizational leaders are so concerned about arriving at the outcome that they don't spend enough time in the assessment phase. So I think it's very important.
Yeah.
And, for those of you who are joining and watching, please feel free to put in the chat, the areas that you believe within your organization you need to spend more time, assessing. Dr. Iyanu talked about being able to assess the systems, being able to assess and develop or build the people, and being able to assess the governance. We do have a responsibility to our customers, both internal and external, that we are not releasing data and information that should not be released. But we also have a commitment, to who we service, to staff, to ensure that people are in the right positions, doing the right things, and being aligned with purpose. And you have to be intentional as a leader with developing your people and having the right succession planning, the right talent management, and the right workforce development. So I just wanted to, make sure that I just further emphasized everything that you've said, and just bring an HR standpoint to what you've shared.
I agree with you 100%. Really, identifying the problem is as critical as solving the problem, because if you've not identified the right problem, how do you know exactly what to solve? And so assessing allows us the opportunity to identify the problems, identify the issues, identify the things that we need to change. And then now you can turn around and say, okay, here's a systematic approach on how we're going to solve them. And to your point, and you do a really, really great job at this, just with our interactions thus far, is working with individuals and working with people is really critical to building any organization. And so if you're not building your people and you're not creating a workforce that would be able, you're empowering to be able to do better, and all they have to do is come into work and be scared that they might get laid off the next day. I mean, it's a sad situation.
Yeah. You know, I know I agree with you wholeheartedly that there has to be a way to build and develop the workforce, and that, you know, leaders within an organization, because I believe we're all leaders, should not fear coming in and potentially, you know, losing the what they would consider to be the security in where they're working. And I think within every organization, even if professionals are not entrepreneurs and have their own business, they're introducing entrepreneurial efforts into an organization, because that's how an organization is able to, you know, to thrive with people. So thank you so much for that. And you mentioned earlier about introducing AI and introducing the right AI tools. And I know that Wokkah has many AI-powered solutions that are available to organizations. So can you share a little bit about the AI tools and solutions that Wokkah offers and how you've deployed those solutions for organizations?
Thanks, Dr. April. So we come from and this is the best place to really share where our heart is as an organization. And that also helps to share how we approach our deployments and how we approach building our applications on the Wokkah front. We work with external tools, but we also build our own internal tools as well. And so what we do is basically we try to assess where their opportunities lie. But before we go assessing where opportunities lie, what we really want to pay attention to is not just where the opportunities lie, but like what the current challenges of the organization is today. So what are your challenges? What are you facing? And so we have internal tool that helps to do that assessment. That the tool basically takes into consideration your current organization, your implementations, the tools that you've built, the tools that you have and those that you don't, the things that you're looking to solve for. And it actually uses AI, to essentially point you to, this is where you need to be focused on. We look at it from two angles. We look at it from a return on investment, but as I would say, we look at it also from a return on purpose standpoint. So return on purpose means like basically how are you able to drive growth around your mission, around your vision, around what it is that you've actually purposed to do for the world, number one, but also how are you able to drive revenue at the same time. So those multiple places. So what we do is we have a group of talents. We have a series of humans, not just talents, humans that we have trained and we've equipped to solve people's problems. And so you connect with us, you typically put the problem you're trying to solve or your project or the vision that you're trying to accomplish. And basically what we do is we take what you share with us, we break it into requirements, and we find people that would help solve those problems internally. So one, we help companies directly create tools that help them to grow, but also before they even get to creating the tools, we help them identify what problems and challenges that they have that exist and what they need to solve for based on the return on investment and return on purpose, so that we can actually build a tool that makes sense and allows them to accomplish their vision, grow their revenue, and grow their purpose.
That's awesome.
I hope that makes sense.
It does. Thank you so much, Dr. Iyanu, for sharing that. And for those who are watching, Dr. Iyanu's contact information with the Wokkah website is on the screen so that you can further review and assess what what resources, what tools, and what solutions you can partner with Dr. Iyanu and the Wokkah team to help to bring solutions to your organization. So thank you so much,
Absolutely.
Dr. Iyanu, for sharing that detailed insight.
Absolutely.
I know that there's so many different ways that your organization has been helping leaders globally. And I know you just gave some insight on some of the services, but can you share more information on how you and the Wokkah team are helping both organizations and leaders globally?
Yeah. So our business is two-pronged. One is building the next generation of data scientists and AI practitioners. And I call them AI practitioners. AI practitioners are people that use AI tools, but they might not necessarily know how to build some of the tools. And then you have data scientists and AI builders or AI agent, not AI agents, but AI engineers or data engineers that are actually on the back end creating these systems that everybody's using. So we're training both. We are training both the AI practitioners. We're training the AI engineers or your data scientists. We're training them on the back end, and we have access to over 100,000 people, which you're quite familiar with that effort. We have about 100,000 people that we have access to train, to build, to grow, to support organizations as we move into this AI space. So we don't want to be people that actually fire people. We want to be people that actually hire people. And that's the idea. How do we create opportunities for people? When the AI move started, Dr. April, I was thinking to myself, like, man, we could build an AI tool that would change the world, and which is great. We could make a whole lot of money from it. But at the end of the day, like, we saw the gap, we saw the issue, and we realized that AI is going to actually start taking up more people's jobs than actually keep them. So what can we do to try to resolve this problem? And rather than pursuing building like amazing applications, which I could do because I have the degree that allows me to be able to build those tools, we chose to follow purpose first, which I've shared this with you already around how we really did choose to follow purpose first. So we have that piece where we're actually empowering and encouraging people, and we want to do 1 million. We want to be able to help 1 million people, and we believe that we can. So in the next 1 year, we want to be able to train 50 to 100,000 people to be ready to be hired. And then on the other end, we want to help organizations to become AI ready. And so we believe that there are new industries that will be created with the AI move. We believe that there are new businesses and new companies that will be created with the new AI move. We believe that there are a lot of people that are going to take advantage of AI, like we did take advantage of electricity to build computers.
Right.
We use AI to create the next generation X, Y, Z, HL, whatever that application is. And so we wanted to be in the forefront of it. We want people to be able to say, hey, we were on the platform, we were conceiving this idea, we had no idea what was going to happen, but we were able to take this idea from zero to $1 billion because we partnered with Wokkah. And so basically what we do is we engage the organization, we learn what they need done, and we have internal tools that actually help them do it. So for example, we have the assessment tool, which I mentioned about. We have training tools as well, AI training tools that help organizations to train their staff on how they could be ready and prepared for the AI emergence, or whatever it is that we choose to call it. And so training, we have tools that we built internally that solve those kind of problems as well, so that organizations can prepare their staff to be ready for what's coming ahead of the whole situation with AI. So that's one. Two, for the organization, we also help the organizations identify what is that one thing that you could do that could be very, very transformative for your business and would make you get to the next level to AI. So I'll give you an example. So a lot of organizations today are trying to automate their systems, which is great. It's good to learn how to automate your systems. A lot of organizations are trying to reduce the time it takes to be able to solve problems. That is amazing. But what we're trying to do is, okay, are there organizations looking to increase their staff? What would it take for them to get from point A to point B? According to Google, Google is actually hiring people, right? Why?
Right.
Because if you're getting more work will require more people. And so how do we help organizations to become like that, where it doesn't become about, oh yeah, now I can fire X number of people so that I can get this work done. So we start thinking through, okay, what does your sales engine look like? And so internally we have a tool that is an automation tool that helps increase double sales for any organization.
That's good. Now I want to go back to something, Dr. Iyanu, that you said, because I don't want to pass over it.
Yep.
You talked about you didn't say that it was a crossroad, but you came to a point where you were considering, yes, I have the ability and the capacity to do this, but rather than do that, I want to be able to transform the lives of at least 1 million people around the world. And so there's several things that I want to ask about this. And I think that many organizational leaders are in a position that they're having to make assessments. They're having to assess whether or not they reduce their workforce. We've seen this private sector and in government. And you have people who are impacted. And I know you've made efforts to be able to develop and train people and create opportunities for people to be employed. And so one thing that I wanted to ask you about, what are some things that organizational leaders can do if they are faced with what they believe is a need to do reductions in their force or do, some type of layoffs? What can you say to them to consider, not having these large numbers of layoffs and reductions to create opportunities rather than focusing on just the return of investment for their companies?
Really great question. Lots of organizations are over leveraged, right? So the majority of them were spending money that they don't have. Some, not maybe not the giant companies, but like a majority of the companies, you get seed funding to do X, Y, and Z, and then you just hire a bunch of people that you don't necessarily need. So one, you need to evaluate your priorities as an organization. That's number one, right? Like, is our mindset in the right place? You could almost tell those whose mindsets are in the right place by the things that you hear people say. You see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So that's number one. Two, how are you training your current staff to be AI enabled so that you can actually increase the productivity of the organization, as opposed to, hey, I'm going to lay them off? And so one, you want to start thinking, like, how are we training them, or how are we equipping them, or how many people are actually willing to make the changes that are needed so that we can stop being over leveraged, but now start using our resources to increase our human resources, to increase our sales volume, to increase our reach. Also, how you're assessing the opportunities that exist for the organization, how you're assessing those opportunities compared to your current workforce. So side by side, right? Comparative analysis. What's your work volume? What are you going to need to drive sales? What's that work volume going to look like? How do you equip the workforce to be able to meet those demands? What is the delta there? a majority of those things are not necessarily being discussed, or if they are being discussed, people figure out they are over leveraged anyway. So they're like, you know what? Now we see where the leakages are in our system,
Right.
and then humans become the victim of this, which is totally wrong.
I agree. So you said something else. You talked about wanting to make sure that you had a return on purpose,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And so there may be organizations and leaders who are not looking at, purpose first, and they're just simply trying to look at their return on investment. How can organizational leaders realign or better align to ensure that they're getting a return on purpose and a return on investment?
So I think really a lot of things that have driven my decisions in my life has been my faith, right? And I think that companies, CEOs need to start sort of reevaluating why we do the things that we do. Are we doing it to help people? Are we doing it for financial gain only? If we're doing it for financial gains only, it stays with us and it doesn't get to spread. And we're building a generation. And so you never know whom you influence today, the effect of that. There's a guy by the name David who was good friends with Jonathan. This is in the Bible. And basically, after his friend lost his life, he became a support to his friend's family because David had the wealth, he had the ability to be able to support that. But if he wasn't good friends and good support to his friend, then how would the family be able to benefit from it? And so what we do has long-lasting impact. It might not directly impact our own financials, but it's impacting people that might be in a position to impact our families and our friends in the future. And so we need to start really thinking about what we do in the light of how it impacts people. These are people's lives. I know someone who was working in a company who just lost his job, not because he was not effective at his job, but because there were some AI layoffs. And because of that, now he has to basically take care of his pregnant wife. And so what's going to happen when he gets laid off and there's really nothing to help hold them up as they expect their little kid, right? So these are some of the issues that I think for people of faith and for people who also have a heart or desire. You don't have to be a person of faith to have a heart or desire to see your brother or sister be well, flourish, and do
Yes.
well. And so it's all about flourishing. We want to see people flourish. We want to see people happy. We want people see people live good lives while they are actually doing the work. It's not like you're paying them to sit around. You're paying them to do specific work. So if they are doing specific work or they have specific expertise or are willing to learn, then why can't they be given the chance to do so? Why do they have to be laid off?
Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that.
He comes for us.
Yes, that's good. And thank you so much for sharing that, Dr. Iyanu. And I know we didn't talk about these things before in terms of questions, but I want to also take another spin because there may be people who are watching. They're not formally in a leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
They may want to start a company or, start a business because they have a desire to go outside of just themselves, just outside of their, let's say they're a family of 4. They want to go outside of their 4 and no more, right? They want to really make an impact in their community, not just in their household, but in their community, in their neighborhood, in their state, in their country, around the world. They want to make an impact. but they don't really know where to start. But they have a desire to really make an impact, to change the lives of people and help to create opportunities, right, for other people. Where would you recommend that they start? I know that's a big question.
So this is big. This is neat. This is good. So I like that you asked this question, because I think it's also important to address this as well. So one is, you want to learn, and I'm going to go really practical now. You want to learn how to use GPT. So you want to learn how to use tools, AI tools, and there are a bunch of them. A lot of people focus on just one of them, ChatGPT. That's great. You can keep that as a focus, but more importantly, you want to ask yourself, what problems are you really looking to solve, and how can I use this tool to speed up the time it's going to take me to do the research. So now, of course, with these tools that exist, some of the things that used to take hours, 9 hours, 10 hours to do, now can take you milliseconds, right, to do. And so the first thing you want to do is you want to use a tool, an AI tool. I don't want to restrict it to GPT. There's Claude, there's Grok, there's DeepSeek, there's a whole bunch. You want to use it to identify what opportunities exist, right? So that's the first step. And when you're plugging in the opportunities that exist, use this tool not necessarily as, hey, I trust what it is that what you're saying, but as a verification tool. So what do I mean by that? So I'm asking it the question, what opportunities exist? I'm not going to just say, what opportunities exist? Can you give me the data points to back what you're saying up? Right? Because you want to make sure that what it's saying to you is correct. A lot of people use these tools and they expect almighty, GPT answer, almighty from there. And so that's number one, use the tools. Two, once you nail down what it is that you're trying to do with these tools, use additional tools to solve the layered problems. So I'll give you an example. So you've identified the opportunity that you're trying to solve for. Of course, you need to sell that opportunity to a specific set of people. Use the AI tools to identify who you should be selling it to, but also pick up your phone or use a tool like Apollos, which is a tool that I'm putting out there. You can use Apollos. Is a tool that allows you to be able to search for contacts based on specific requirements, specific needs or filters that you're going to put into the tool. So you use Apollos to identify potential customers and literally pick up the phone and give the individual a call. I still do it the old school way. Like it's one thing, like I love advertising. I love advertising. I do advertising. As a matter of fact, our company we run ads and we do all of that stuff. All of that is great. But like basically me picking up the phone and me being able to get quantitative data from my customer directly is extremely life-changing. So if you're looking to start your business, don't say, hey, this AI thing, I'm not sure, I might need to learn how to become a data scientist before I do. No, you do not. You do not. Okay? You do not. All you need to do is understand what am I trying to pursue? What can GPT help me to be able to identify based on what it is I'm trying to pursue? And like I said, don't use it just to get the result. Ask it for verification. Like, tell me where you're getting these data points from, because I want to be able to verify it. Once you're able to verify it, you're working with real data that is showing that this is actually a challenging problem. Then say, okay, who are the people that I'm going to have to sell this to? And call between 10 to 50 and make sure that there's that actual pain point established between those 10 to 50 people. Then start putting together a team that would help you to continue to grow that sale. And sometimes you might need to do fulfillment of some of the things that you're doing. Then work with a team, call a team, work with a team, or go on Wokkah and find someone who might be able to help you to build it out or help you to create it. And then you just become the sales guy who sells that to those individuals. So use the tools, use GPT, use Grok. Those are the best places to start. The additional tools that I can give out there for your audience, but we could host a webinar. Well, it's not webinar,
A
virtual
master
event,
class or
or
something, a
masterclass,
challenge.
or challenge, right? And help people with tools that can actually help them to blow up what they're doing, opportunities and things of that nature. But I would tell you, and I would tell your audience, there is a whole lot of opportunities in the AI space. Like, as a matter of fact, just to give everybody peace of mind and comfort for where AI is going, there are opportunities that we don't even know yet.
Yes.
That are still being born from the place of AI. The reason why companies are scared or afraid now is because basically a majority are still using the old system. For you that are just coming into the picture, now you have an opportunity to level set. Okay, this is where I'm starting from. I'm starting from floor, and AI is the basis of where it is I'm starting from. So the sky becomes just the starting point.
That's excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Iyanu, for all of those tips. I think one of the things that really stood out that you said is making sure, and I'm paraphrasing, that as people are putting their inquiries into the various AI-based platforms and tools, that they're giving it the right prompt, that they're focusing the type of inquiry so that they can get the right information, and that they shouldn't just rely on whatever AI tool or platform they're using. They can ask the system to tell them where the information is coming from, because they need to do the validation. What they're receiving may or may not be correct.
Exactly.
So building in those other layers is going to be very important. But as I understand it, they're using the AI tools for layers of the process.
Yes.
So and it's helping them to brainstorm at an accelerated rate.
Yes.
I read something earlier today. No, it wasn't. I wasn't reading something. I saw a reel that said that there's AI tools that can create a website in as fast as 90 seconds or less, right? So there's so many different things that we can do with AI, and it's making sure that we put the right prompt into the system so that we get the right output.
Absolutely. For example, Canva, like the tool Canva,
yes,
design will create a website in milliseconds. There's a tool Realum that would create you a landing strip in seconds. There's another tool there. Of course, the ChatGPTs also have their inbuilt tool that would generate code that would build a website in seconds as well. And then for application development, there are tools like Lovable that will generate an application, not just a website, but an application.
That's awesome.
Right? But it's not enough for it to generate this. How do you know what it's done? How do you trust what it's done?
Right.
Is what's happening is a lot of people are so dependent on the tool that we lose our ability to actually think in the process. And I think the biggest problem we're going to have moving into the AI era is we're going to develop someone calls it brain dementia. Not brain.
I know exactly what you're saying, because we're maybe you'll think of the term, but basically, because if you rely on the AI tools to think for you instead of employing strategic thinking and thinking, going through those complex analysis, and you allow another system to do it for you, you're basically abdicating your responsibility to think critically, right? So you're giving away your authority to think, and you're not exercising, your critical thought, and you're not using your brain for what it was designed for. And so underuse results in, losing some of that sharpness that you would have.
Exactly. Imagine that you're using AI to create a grant. You're probably very familiar with the whole grant creating process. So let's say, for example, I put all the questions I wanted answered for the grant into my AI system. I'm just using this as a hypothetical example. And I'm not saying not to use AI for grant writing. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying verify what it is that you're doing while you're doing it. But let's say you put all your questions into the system. It generates the questions for you. You send it to the reviewer, and the reviewer says, "Oh, we need you to answer this, and this." So imagine you put what the reviewer says you should answer, you put it right back into the AI tool, and then it does it for you. And then maybe you went through 7 rounds of reviewing. At the 7th round, if you're feeding it into the AI system and you're not reading what it is that you're feeding right in, you don't even know what's in the grant any longer.
Exactly. Dr. Iyanu, that's an excellent example, but I want to also correlate it to how when people started utilizing spell check or auto
yes,
how they forgot to spell certain words because they weren't spelling them. So I can think about my first computer. Our parents, I think it was a Tandy, maybe when I was about 9 or 10 years old. It was a bigger computer than what we use today. But computer systems have even evolved where now it has an autocomplete when you're typing. And when you get in a habit of texting and it autocompletes and you're not really having to spell words out fully, or you're relying on your computer to do a spell check for you, the thing that AI doesn't know is it doesn't know the context in which you're saying what you're saying.
Yep.
So yet again, how people lost their ability to spell, appropriately from using these auto systems. I think it's a direct correlation to the capacity that we can lose from thinking critically by relying on AI. So
100%.
yes.
100%. And you observe that the more we keep introducing better ways of doing things, the more we lose the knowledge on how those things work in the first place. And so when those things get broken, what's going to happen? Imagine that you had the airplane pilot who flies, us up and down from one place to the other. Imagine you had a shortage of pilots.
Wow.
Just think about it, right? Just think about the effect of that. Maybe because we initially thought AI systems can fly the plane for us, then we lost the skill set of flying in the process. And because we lost the skill set of flying in the process, if anything happens in that knowledge transfer, then basically you have a whole generation that doesn't even understand how planes actually work, because we basically outsourced all of that knowledge to a particular system, which now we're so far from being able to understand how they work.
Yes. And, that's an excellent example. And I even, can say practically that I think a lot of organizations need to start introducing polls to determine the human side of things and whether or not humans are okay with the automations that have been introduced. I remember about a month ago, I decided I was going to order something online for pickup in store because there's this particular, I'm going to leave the brand of the company anonymous, but they opened a new location in my area, and the location that they opened had a drive-through, but you could only go through the drive-through if you called ahead. Well, they don't even take the order over the phone, but you had to order in advance on the app or online in order to go through the drive-through. Well, I didn't check my order before I left. And this is a place that sort of assembles your order based on what you select. And I didn't check it before I drove off, and I got all the way home, and a core ingredient or component was missing from my order. And so I tried calling in to talk about the issues so that I could go back and get a replacement. And it was an AI agent helping me. And the AI agent didn't give me the option of how I wanted it resolved. So it just gave me a free beverage. Well, I'm sorry, a beverage isn't a proper replacement for an actual meal. That is incorrect. So again, it's about having all of the tools, being able to ensure that you're not losing the ability to do what needs to be done. That human touch, that human interaction is what's needed. And in that case, there should have been an option to speak to a live human, but there was not. So again, that was complete outsourcing to AI to handle something that AI was not equipped to handle. So, and then it said that it closed my ticket because it was resolved. And it was not resolved. Well, this has been an excellent time. I know we could probably go on and on and on. I'm going to accept your offer to do a challenge or to do a masterclass or something like that. So we'll have to talk after this about how we can best partner to bring some solutions to people. But Dr. Iyanu, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. This has been an absolute joy. I have really, loved talking with you about how we can lead with purpose and some strategies that organizational leaders can use to maximize their return on purpose, and their return on investment.
Absolutely.
Is there anything else that you would like to add before we conclude today?
Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And one of the reasons why we was really excited about the conversation was that, like, a majority of the things that you're doing are human-centered and centered around empowering humans to do. And like you and I have been discussing all through this session, we're not necessarily going to all stay in our bed and expect that robots will bring the food, because we're going to be incapable of moving after a while, because we're going to develop blood clots and things of that nature from just staying on the bed. So there is a part of the world that requires our engagement, our function, our moving around, and we make the world a beautiful place. Like, we make the world a beautiful place. And so pushing that human interaction, pushing that purpose, because you can try to feed purpose into a robot, but it's not going to be similar to feeding it to a human. And
right.
And what makes us human, what makes us do the things that we do, are solely because there are things that God has placed in us as gifts that we get to share. So I believe that, like, when it comes to AGI and super intelligence, all that stuff coming up, I think nothing is still going to replace the giftings and the talents and the things that God has placed in all of our hearts and mind to do as humans.
I agree.
And so whether you believe in God or not, all of that, we're all called to do something. And so I think that what you're doing is really pushing people to be able to live their lives in a purposeful way. And it's a very great thing. And just thought to share that what you're doing is amazing, and keep doing what you're doing. That's all I have to really share.
Thank you, Dr. Iyanu, and you're very welcome. It's just been a joy to have you on Purpose Today with Dr. April Dobson. If there are viewers who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way that they can do that?
So there are two ways to reach me. Either reach me on LinkedIn or reach me on Instagram. You can, if you have any business-related work, probably better to reach me at Iyanuoluwa Wokkah. And LinkedIn is my professional platform, and so you could reach me there. You could find some of the contents that I share about AI. I mostly share on LinkedIn, so that's also a good place to connect.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Dr. Iyanu. It has been such a joy. And to all of our viewers who are watching, thank you so much for watching Purpose Today. I hope that there's been something that you've gained insightful from today's episode. Put in the chat if there's something that stood out for you, and reach out to Dr. Iyanu, connect with him on Instagram and LinkedIn. And so I want you to continue to tune in for another power-packed episode of Purpose Today. Thank you so much for tuning in.